Today, we are talking about the very anticipated return of David El Monstro Benavidez as he will be going up against one of boxing's best, David Morrell, on February 1st, live in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. As usual, I'll be handing this over to my co-hosts. Now, let's talk boxing.
Welcome back to the Pound for Pound Boxing Channel. My name's Eric.
And I'm Alex.
And today we will finally be talking about the anticipated return of the Mexican monster. I am talking about David Benavidez versus David Morrell. A lot of people find this fight a dangerous fight for David Benavidez, as it is one of the very first times he will be fighting someone possibly bigger than him and just as young as him. Just to start, I love the lead up to this fight. I love when we see a grudge match. I like when there's beef exchange. To me, it's always seemed like David Benavidez has a better performance every time there is beef.
Yeah, to me, this sounds like a monster movie. You know, the great big David Benavidez that fought everybody at 168, or at least some good names at 168, and then David Morrell, the one up-and-comer young guy. This is a fantastic fight. If you're a real boxing fan, this is what the fight you're going to be looking forward to. This might be possible fight of the year.
It's really making the 175 a weight division, like heavyweight, it's making it more exciting. We saw 168, how it was such a good division. But at this point, we really know it's only Canelo at that point. You know, a lot of other fighters have already lost. Some are a little bit over the edge. But at 175 pounds, we have a lot of talent. And then apart from that, just a couple weight divisions above, we got J.O. Pataya, who's a straight monster. So the fact that we're seeing these two young lions face toe-to-toe February 1st, it really makes me excited, especially since this fight is kicking off the beginning of the year.
Whoever wins this, I believe, becomes mandatory for whoever wins the next fight between Arthur Beterbiev and Bivol.
How do you feel about the lead up to this fight? You know, we've seen the press conferences. We've seen them both shove each other, push each other, you know, call each other names. Do you really feel that it's something personal, or do you think they're just kind of putting it on for the cameras to sell the fight?
Well, like you told me earlier, we were talking behind the camera. You were telling me that at first you believe that it was, you know, camera and everything to sell the fight. But now it does seem like it is a little bit more personal, especially with David Benavidez and Morrell just pushing each other. Now they got under each other's skins, and I feel like to this point they're using it as motivation for the fight.
And, you know, it's such a hard fight to call. When you look at both styles, you know, David Morrell has, I want to say, more of a straightforward boxing fundamental style.
Like outboxer, right?
He's an outboxer, comes behind a good jab, you know, has a little bit of foot movement. And then with David Benavidez, he's almost kind of unpredictable. A lot of people criticize, you know, his defense. They criticize the fact that he doesn't have a lot of foot movement. But when you look at David Benavidez's style, I feel like he's really one of those fighters, kind of like Roy Jones Jr., that doesn't really go in with the game plan, but it's more just based off what you're doing in there is what they're going to hit you with. And David Benavidez, although a lot of people don't see it, I believe he's really athletic. We saw his last fight against Alexander Gvozdyk. I personally thought that was a really good showing for a first fight at 175 pounds. We know he got tired towards the end of the fight, but before that, you know, I saw a different side of David Benavidez. I didn't just see the killer instinct where he does the 10-count, you know, punching combos, but I also saw the fact that David Benavidez added a little bit of a Philly shell, you know, started getting into the groove of things, and I really do like his jab. I think that's one thing David Benavidez is really underrated for is his jab. To me, it just seems like he snaps it from a distance. It kind of reminds me of Thomas Hearns to that factor.
And I feel like with David Benavidez, the thing that would be his downfall in this fight, if I were to pick Morrell, is because of David Benavidez's, you know, fundamental flaws. He has too many, in my opinion. He stands way too straight up. He's squared a lot of time, especially when he's doing that high guard, and he just stands there and takes so much punishment. But to a degree, it could play in his favor and tire out Morrell. So we just don't know because Morrell's a younger guy. He's not like Alexander Volstik. It's a lot more different with a younger guy, especially with him because he hits a lot harder. He looked like a killer at 168. So it is going to be quite interesting how this fight's going to transpire.
I do believe that David Morrell does bring some power. I didn't see it too much in his last fight against Radovoje Kalajdzic. I thought he does still have the fundamentals. And of course, he does have less flaws than David Benavidez. But that's
Yeah, he
another
does.
thing that I want to say is that David Benavidez is just kind of spectacular to watch. You don't really know what he's going to throw next. And sometimes that could play into the favor. Looking back at Errol Spence, he had the fundamentals on Terrence Crawford. We know that he always followed the fundamentals. And Terrence Crawford has always been a good fighter, switch hitter, strong, and power in both hands. And, that night, everybody got shocked because – although Errol Spence was the fundamental fighter, Terrence Crawford just came in with counter punching. He came in with athleticism, and he came out with power in both hands. And I think that's what's going to help David Benavidez, apart from the experience. Because when we're talking about experience, David Morrell only has a couple fights. David Benavidez has been a pro for years now, I think 10 years plus. And apart from that, he's fought a lot of better competition. David Benavidez has already been 3-time champion, while David Morrell has gotten some interim belts. He just became a champion fighting Radovoy Kalajic. But, I mean, regardless of all that, I just think it's going to look – in the beginning, I really do feel like David Morrell is going to look like he's winning the fight.
Yeah.
Just like against Bubba Andrade. But as the rounds go on and they progress, I feel like we're going to see David Benavidez doing his thing like he always does and breaking down David Morrell.
But let me ask you this. Do you think that David Benavidez cherry-picked Morrell in a way? Because Morrell didn't look so good in his last fight. He looked a lot more tired. He didn't look like he had that punch that he had at 168.
But I could say the same thing about David Benavidez in his last fight. David Benavidez, he did look
way
good,
better than,
but he got tired and he started fading towards the end of the round. So I think it plays in both favors. They're probably both thinking, it's my time to get him right now. While he didn't have the best performance at 175 pounds. I do believe that both men are coming in ready for this fight, and they're both really anticipated to show the public how good they really are.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think they probably believe the same thing. Oh, he didn't look so good in his last fight. So right now is probably the best time for them to make the fight. We just don't know who's going to win because it's so close. It's so close. I say it's about a 55-45. 55 for David Benavidez because obviously he has experience, and 45 for Morrell because of his youth and because he's going to be bigger than most of the guys that David Benavidez has faced so far.
No, and that's for sure. But if I could ask you, how do you see the end of the fight going? Whose hand do you see getting raised at the end of the fight? Who would you pick?
And for my prediction for that, I would have to go with David Benavidez. I feel like his experience, he's fought a lot more top-tier competition, at least in the pros. I know David Morrell had a better amateur background, but in the pros, it's just a lot more different, especially going 12 rounds. So I would have to lean towards David Benavidez winning a split decision.
I'm gonna go out my way and say that this is gonna be a really good fight. I do see it going to decision. I believe David Benavidez is gonna win a close one, but I do believe he's gonna do enough just for the judges to see that it will be a unanimous decision. Like I said, I think what's gonna happen is David Morrell is gonna play a good, really, really good game plan. And he is gonna be winning a lot of rounds. So don't be surprised if David Benavidez doesn't look all that great. But what I think is gonna happen through the transition of the time, I think those punches that David Benavidez is going to be unleashing is really going to break down David Morrell's style. And I really do think at the end of the day, David Benavidez just has a lot more to offer at this point than someone like David Morrell, which is nothing to take away because he's still young. We know he still has barely any fights in professional boxing, so he could always come back and, challenge the best and become world champion one day. But at this point, I just think David Benavidez is in his prime, and I am excited to say that if he were to win, I can't wait to see what he does with the rest of the 175-pound weight division. But that's just our opinion. Let us know your guys' breakdown down below in the comments section. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. My name's Eric.
And I'm Alex.
And I'm your boy, Mac. Thank you guys once again for tuning into the Pound for Pound Boxing channel. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we're out.